right now, the biggest thing on my mind is bouncing ideas about how dojos are getting through this whole COVID thing. I think that's the biggest thing right now, because I mean, what I'm seeing a lot of is just people acquiescing and just assuming that they're done. I'm seeing a lot of that where it's all become this sort of nostalgic thing, right? Where everybody's watching videos and just,
yeah,
seems like everybody just kind of gave up.
What? Let me ask you this: those that you are paying attention to, that you think are doing the right things, what are they doing?
I was actually going to ask you that question, so thanks. No,
Well,
I honestly, the thing that I'm seeing the most is the most successful is the people who are mirroring gyms, right? I mean, the people who are mirroring what's working in tangential industries, right? So if you've gone virtual and you've got not only content but some sort of accountability built in so that people feel a need to show up, and then secondary for me would just be trying to keep the hours as close to your normal hours as you can, so that when this whole thing is over, they don't have to reestablish those habits of showing up. But
yeah,
I mean, I think that's the big thing. Is that was going to be my question to you? Is what you think is working for people and what isn't?
Yeah, that's you. I mean, you basically answered the same way I would have. And we talked about this, I think, a few times last week. But like, there's the following your business, making sure your business runs, giving value to your paying customer. In our case, our students.
Right.
So I think those that I was actually on a Zoom this morning with one of our senior students, and we can agree that everybody that's currently training likes Aikido.
Sure.
But there's certain people that love Aikido, and those are the people that I think you'd agree that you and I, running schools, want to just give them as much value as we can to keep training off or out of the dojo on their own, whether it be techniques they can do solo or weapons or fitness or what have you. Where I see the challenge is the bulk of the students that just like Aikido, and because we're not getting together, they're not getting all those things that we get in addition to training. So what are you doing in your dojo to try to retain those that like Aikido but aren't getting to the dojo based on our circumstances?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good one. I mean, I think it's a lot of trial and error. I don't think anybody's really been in this situation before. It's really interesting to me to realize that, in the 60s and 70s and 80s, people were riding high on the martial arts industry being huge and part of Hollywood. And then to come into the late 90s, 2000s, people not so interested anymore. Then a financial crisis, people still not that interested, maybe a little bit because of, BJJ being interesting and, CrossFit, people getting active again. And then this happens and it's like, man, newer dojos are just getting hit. I mean, the ones that survive, I think are gonna be in a really good spot. But I think the thing that that's helping me anyway is consistent communication, and then and having an environment where they feel like they're contributing. I mean, are you finding the same thing? Are you finding that people that like it are just falling off, or are you finding anything for you that's working to keep them around?
Yeah, I mean, like you, we get barraged with so much Aikido noise on Facebook. There's a bazillion groups, and there's this instructors group, and there's our own organization, and then we each have our own channels and the social media outlets, so it gets overwhelming. But I think what makes Aikido unique is, like, let's just say, and again, let's just take Joe Punching and Kicking Arts Dojo with like 80 students, right? And their culture is come in and fight and learn, right? I'm curious that, to answer your question, like, I think what makes Aikido really unique is the relationship between the students and the teacher and the students is a little bit more like, I think more like a family. I don't think that carries over in every art. Even in a gym, for that matter, with a couple hundred, 300, 400, 500, 700 members, you don't feel like a family in there. You feel like a number. So what we're doing, and I'm doing, is I'm consciously scheduling and reaching out weekly, preferably on video Zoom, like we do. Like, we keep in touch pretty regularly, probably weekly. We get on a video chat. and just make sure that they're all getting touched in some way, whether it be Facebook Messenger or text or email. So everybody knows that I'm thinking about them. I still love them. I'm concerned about them. I hope they're healthy. I hope they're working out. I hope they're doing the Aikido Tabata program. And just moving their body and trying to weather the storm. That's, I think if dojos do that, I think everything else will fall into place.
Yeah. And I think part of it is also the, it comes back on us as instructors, I think, to some extent, or to a huge extent. I mean, this is the time where I think what I'm seeing a lot of is, instructors who post these quick little videos basically saying, here's some stuff, go practice it. And my take on it is more, guys, this is a great opportunity to lead by example, and so my view on it was, I'm not creating content because of COVID-19 and because I need to do something because it's virtual now or because people can't make it to the dojo. I'm working out anyway. I'm doing my Aikido work anyway. So why not take that opportunity, restructure maybe how I would normally do it when I'm by myself? Like, I wouldn't talk to myself the way that I shoot those videos right now. Like, all right, we're going to do this and we're going to put it, like, I just work. But that small change, and then just putting a camera in front of me, allows me to create content that, I'm already going through the motions anyway, because for me, training is daily and I go through all this stuff anyway, physical training and Aikido. So whether I have people to practice with or not. So I think that there's a tremendous benefit to showing students, hey, there is no end to the day-to-day grind. Like, the grind of your training is where you should find your joy, not in the eventual, like, the end result is I'm going to have skill and I'm just going to, demonstrate and teach. And that's really the goal of all this. And it's like, no, the goal of it is what you're doing, right? You're experiencing the goal of Aikido. It just gets better and better over time, I think.
Good point.
But I think, and I noticed that a lot with what you're doing. With the Tabata and the Zoom classes and everything, that I was actually going to ask about, because I'm not doing that. I'm doing Facebook Lives. So I can get comments and things, but I don't see them live practicing because, again, for me, it's a window into my training that I'm giving them access to, not that I'm trying to facilitate a class virtually. Are you finding that the Zoom class has a benefit to it, or is it pretty much ending up the same way?
No, it's a great question. It's totally different because when we started out, we were talking about this. And by the way, I got to applaud you for what you're doing, because not a lot of people know that that's what you're doing. And I'm glad you shared that, because as a friend of yours, and someone that's into fitness as we both are, I just think it's awesome that you do that. I wish more instructors would do that, actually. And that's why, and I'll kind of get to the end of that, how I'm actually doing the Tabata workout myself in Zoom with people. So I'm not just saying, go do this. Here's what it looks like. I'm doing it with you. Here's the reality. Like, and again, we decided to do virtual classes. We originally wanted to keep it just to current active members, students that are paying their dues in good standing, et cetera, that are training. So we have a small group on Facebook for that. And then I was thinking to myself, not everybody is comfortable in front of the camera. Not every instructor knows how to do this, even though it's not particularly difficult. So, in the spirit of Aikido and what we do, why don't we share, like, what you're doing? You're sharing, you're opening it up to people to train with you virtually. Yeah. So we then, we did a few classes in our Facebook group, which you're a part of, which is like 382 members. And it's a pretty good footprint. It's not the public page. Obviously that's for the public. This is a private group. So we put it in there, and I was getting some good feedback from some other instructors, and they were watching it and they liked it. But like you said, it's very one directional. So it's hard, as someone that's been teaching for a long time, I don't teach in front of a camera. I have camera experience. It's a different world. Yeah. So it was very, the positive is I could open up the class to 380 people. They can partake or not partake. They can, we can watch and not do anything, and that's fine. Yeah. And then we moved over to Zoom recently because of the engagement and the involvement. So, if there's 9 windows open, there's teaching going on and practice. And then I can actually, if we're doing like a kata, I can look at each person because I'll just be like, okay, these 5 moves. Okay, Jim, you're up, and he'll do 5, and then next Tasha, and then Jim, and then
get
Jack.
feedback.
Yeah, I can get feedback. I can, and then it's not just me demoing where I'm not seeing them, because they could just be learning the kata wrong for an hour. It's like, what good is that? So there's advantages to Zoom. I like it. And yeah, I think just depending on what you're trying to do and where you're going with it, I think there's value to both. Is it something you're considering at this point?
No.
That's fine.
I thought about it, and the way that I have everything set up now is I'm using this as a way to establish a virtual program in perpetuity. Right. So essentially my goal is to set this up so that not only is it valuable to people right now, so that they feel like they have real meaningful class length content that they can continue, every day if they spread it out every day of the week. And they feel that whether they're supporting the dojo at the lowest level or at the highest level, we set up 3 remote support packages for that. Or if they just maintain their normal memberships, they're getting value for that during this time, right? The other side of it is I want, once all this content is created, so the amount of content is basically determined by how long we're off the mat, essentially turns into a remote training program that I can offer to people who might have good reason for not being able to come to the dojo, but still want to explore Aikido, whether they're in a place that doesn't have a dojo, or they've got a medical concern that keeps them off the mat, but they're really interested. This is a way for me to extend my love of Aikido to them, in a way that they can kind of explore it. So I think that there's a value for sure to both. But for me, it's like, what am I doing right now? Well, partly it's really just convenient for me to let people in on my own training and just narrate more. And then set it up so that it's useful going forward beyond this whole COVID-19 thing,
Gotcha.
Yeah. So all right, COVID-19 depresses me. We should talk about something else.
Let's talk about COVID-20. Yeah.
Yeah, let's start talking about the next pandemic.
That's funny.
God. No, I honestly, I wanted to, on the media side, I think is an interesting place to go, because one of the things that I noticed in thinking about, seminars and all of that, one of the things that I noticed the most is that the lack of audio-visual quality that goes into producing a great event. In other words, for me, it's like, there's always this perspective of keeping a cost down for an event, which is totally fine, so that members feel like, oh, it's not that expensive. But at the same time, if you increase a seminar fee like summer camp or winter camp or any seminar really to cover some AV cost so that you could get really good audio visual at an event, I mean, do you think it would just make the cost of a seminar too astronomical for people to go to, or do you think it would actually provide a value?
Not at all.
Because I feel like it would provide a value.
Yeah, it's a combination of factors, which we both know, some of which I'll share on this and some of which I won't, but it's hard to see, to not realize how easy it is to produce or do what you're saying, because we both come from a professional event side of our businesses as well. You speak a lot in front of groups, so you know what it's like to work with that media partner, to mic you, to record it, to have it professionally, AV'd and all that. And then my company does some of that as well for certain clients. So we were in California, we covered a 500 person event and it was all media. So no, it's really not that difficult. And technology today, it's not even that expensive to do it. It's just it's a question of the powers that be understand how easy it is and the value that it would provide. Because, one thing that I see more and more is, and even our technical committee, Shihan, for example, in the USAF is, they're doing a lot more explaining now at seminars. There's more talking. So it's hard in my dojo, it's pretty big, it's open. It's hard to hear in the corner from one corner to the
Oh
other.
my God. Yeah.
So if you put a wireless lav on that instructor, and we do when Demko Sensei comes in, we wirelessly lav him and then we produce that. Obviously, that's my background, pretty easy. But at USAF or Winter Camp, for example, if each instructor were wirelessly laved and there was a camera or a couple cameras in each corner capturing the class, there's tremendous value there. So they did that. They've done it before at summer camp, and they were producing DVDs. Now, unfortunately, and again, just maybe people don't realize, but DVD is a dead format. So it makes no sense to produce a DVD. I would say that 5 years ago, but today especially. So just producing the content and having it digitally available, or people can buy the digital download on YouTube Premium or Vimeo Pro or whatever. It's simple. It's very easy to do. I see value. I mean, you'd probably talking about how many people go to summer camp typically? 300-400?
I mean, at least 600. No,
600?
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
At least 600.
I mean, call it 500 for argument's sake. And if each person paid $5,
$5, $2,500,
probably, if they knew somebody in Aikido that had a professional AV company that would do it for a nonprofit price, that's what you're looking at. It's not much.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that it seems to me like there's two aspects to it, right? Because there's the production value that goes into content that, I mean, it becomes so valuable to dojo who are promoting their dojos, because they can use that content, right? They can use that content to promote their own dojos and say, look how big our federation, our family is. And it really is a really beautifully big organization, warts and all. I think the other side of it, though, is the, to your point about understanding what people are saying, because I think you can do this, right? As you're recording content, because they're labbed up, you can also daisy chain that to like speakers too, right? So that you can actually hear them better if you're in the back corner during the seminar. Because I think that's part of it, right? Like when you're right.
You're right on the money. And then look at, and again, I love Winter Camp, one of my favorite seminars. We get there every year. We train, you and I have a blast. Love it. Love the Greek place.
Amazing seminar,
place.
yeah.
Think about when they do weapons outside and the ocean's crashing down with
waves. No, you can never hear anything
they're
saying.
teaching weapons outside. And again, I don't know what the rules are with the hotel, if they'll let someone have a PA there with a speaker, because it is open to the public. But that's an example of where, like what you just said, having a couple of JBL speakers on stands synced up to the mixer just to project the volume out. Yeah, be great. Be awesome. I hope one day we get there.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. You just need to learn to mute yourself after you teach. Have you ever had that? The hot mic moments are not good. I think that would be, because I think that there are, that's sort of a joke, but I know that there are those kinds of logistical concerns that people have, especially people who are more old school. Like, oh, I don't want to be recorded saying this or that, or, if I say something, I was joking and somebody takes it out of context or something like that. Like, I totally understand all of that, and then I think that there's a justification that happens where they say, instead of addressing that directly, some instructors will say, no, it's because, martial arts should be learned, by watching and then doing. What I say is not important. But at the same time, it's like, well, you are talking, and clearly that means what you're saying is valuable. And so I don't want to miss it. Right.
Especially if you're talking more than you used to talk, and that's your style is, that's the training. You have to take what you can get. So like Shibata's class, he mumbles a couple words and you go practice for an hour. That's awesome.
You don't need to mic him.
Yeah. And then, and then other instructors don't talk much, and then some talk a lot, but you're right. Like, you learn by doing it, not by watching it. And if you can't do it, watch the instruction. If you can't see it or they're talking, you can't watch anything. You have to hear it, right? So no, I think you are right on the money. And I was gonna say one more thing about Winter Camp. The fear of being recorded. It's 2020. Everybody's got a phone out recording everything. I mean, how much content goes online at all these camps and seminars without the instructor even knowing it, right? And some pick up some sound, some don't. But I think if you're, back to what you said, how hard is it to professionally produce content for like some of the big camps? It's not. And then, of course, the powers that be get final approval on the edit. So if an instructor sees their class or hears a class that said something that maybe they didn't want out, you just pull it out of the edit and it doesn't ever get out there. So there's a lot of ways to make it work.
I think Yeah, and I think that's such a great point, right? No matter who it is that is worried about, hot mic situations or moments or whatever, it's like, listen, you understand that these things don't get out when they're done this way. They don't get out unless they're edited, and because they're edited, you know, you just got to know whoever's editing is someone you trust to understand, and then of course that you get final say, so you get a look at it before anybody else does.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's. I wonder what the. I wonder what the. I don't want to say playing field. That's like such a business jargony term, but I wonder what the. I wonder what the field is going to look like. Post COVID-19 when it comes to, our dojos. Because I know that there are people that are talking. I know dojo shows that are saying, "Oh, I'm not opening for at least 2 years." Because I mean, not only can I not open until there's a vaccine, but I also can't open until there's confirmation of like my body already having antibodies and like all this stuff. And I wonder if that's doing harm more than just to themselves.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I kind of would chalk that up to the personal belief of where that person lives in the region and what their political beliefs are and what their media beliefs are. And you're right to that point. It's like, and again, I don't want to make this about that by any means. Everybody's entitled to, we live in a great country, have your own belief system, your own, choose to follow whatever news source you want. But my personal belief is, I think it's hurting them because sure, don't open up if we're still, if every government says, sit tight, we're working on stuff. Let's be sensible. Let's be logical. Sure. But to throw out a statement now to say that it's going to be 2 years, that's a pessimistic comment, and it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help yourself. So I just think be positive, be optimistic that, this isn't the first time in the history of our country or the world that something has come across, right? This. So that's my point.
I wonder, and I think it's an excellent point. The thing I wonder is, one of the issues with this is transmission, especially in large groups, right? Where you have an inability to do contact tracing and all this other stuff. And, far be it for me to speak to, pandemic transmission and all that stuff that really you should listen to the CDC and those guys for because they're experts. But I wonder if dojos are as much of an issue as we make them to be when there's a few thousand people that we're talking about across the entire country practicing Aikido today, where you've got a couple hundred dojos. What is the average class size? 10 to 20.
Right.
Maybe the best thing to do is to say, all right, guys, no big seminars for the next year.
Right.
But you guys can still train at your dojos. I mean, just put a cap on it and say, if you get more than 50 people on the mat, you gotta cap it. It's like, all right, well, that affects 3 dojos in the entire countries who might hit 50 people in one class. How many dojos are basically running seminar level class, like day-to-day classes?
Well, my wife's in healthcare. She's a pharmacist, and one of our students is a nurse. That's brother's a physician at Duke. That's specialty is infectious disease and population health. So we get some good intel. And I follow BBC, CDC, and WHO, the World Health Organization. But I think you make an excellent points. And then I think the good news is that no matter what happens, whenever we go back to normal, the awareness level of personal hygiene, it will be forever changed. I hope for the greater good.
Too.
So to your point, I think if when things open up slowly but surely, and then full blown, we're open, I'm gonna mandate the same hygiene that we had. You and I were talking a week or two before we had to close by the state government. You have to, if you have any symptoms, quite honestly, you really don't belong in the dojo. For what we do, close quarter and sweating and rolling around. But having said that, you need to wash your hands upon entry. You need to use a hand sanitizer. And as long as people are healthy, then small groups of people, should be able to train. I don't see why not. I mean, again, but I'm not a.
I wonder if we actually could end up winning. And I hate to use that term in an Aikido discussion, but the idea that all of these tangentially competing activities, right? Like big gyms and CrossFit and, all these big studios, let's say that you can't have, let's say that when they ease restrictions, they're going to put a cap and say no more than 20 people in a space at a time.
Right.
Like, it sounds like a perfect marketing opportunity to say, hey guys, since you're not allowed to go to gyms, since you're not allowed to do all these things that you were doing before, it seems like a perfect time to take an intro class and maybe explore some Aikido.
I love it. I love the way your mind works. That's great.
It just seems to me like, right? I mean, couldn't you look at around and see that like Gold's Gym can't open, LA Fitness can't open for another year until there's a vaccine. Like they literally say, like there are specific businesses that cannot open until there's a vaccine, because those groups are too big and, sweat and all that other stuff. Like, all right, well, we're never going to see a group, or we're going to cap it just to make sure that we follow the guidelines. But the reality is we probably would have beaten that cap anyway in the average class size. But here's a perfect opportunity. Like, let's start doing intro classes again. Those are one-on-one.
I love it. I love it. And then now you got my 360 mind working, like with the next commercial with the voiceover going something like dropping several $100s on that concert ticket that you can't go to. Well, we've got a solution for you.
Right?
Check out the intro Aikido class. Yeah, totally. No, and I was talking about this as we're multiple business owners too. Like the way business is going to be done, and for our conversation, the business of running an Aikido dojo,
sure.
The way business is going to be done forever, I think, is forever changed with this.
Yeah.
Just the amount of contact and travel in general. So I think to wrap up, I think Aikido. There are dojos that are doing the right things, providing value to their students, putting out content, leading by example, training still, working on their own self, that's really what Aikido is, right? It's an opportunity disguised for self-improvement. So if they're working on themselves, then I think we'll be, overall, the people that remain standing will be the ones that ought to be.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, nothing is sadder than proving out and seeing that someone who you thought was really cool ends up being like a career teacher, and they actually don't do any self-improvement. They don't do any training of their own. It's like, yeah, I guess that makes sense, but you lose all credibility, and that's just too bad. So I think this is sort of a litmus test. This whole situation is going to be a great litmus test to see who are the people who actually embody the idea that Aikido is a lifelong practice, and who are those that are, just people looking for opportunities to show off.
Yeah. And I want to end with, I'm looking at the calendar and I kind of knew, and then I forgot, but like, please pass my regards to all your students that I would have been seeing this weekend.
Yes, I got a few messages about that, and yeah, absolutely. I will do. Yeah. We're all really sad about that. And, just hoping that June can still happen. And so we'll see.
Well, we will get on the mat again one day, my friend, as usual. As always, awesome to chat with you. And I love what you're doing. Keep it up, and we'll talk to you real soon.